probably know the story of Alice in Wonderland, but you must be very, very clever if you can remember it all, because an awful lot of funny things happened. Some of them were the sort of funny things you laugh at, and some of them were funny peculiar. Let's start at the beginning. One day, Alice was having a picnic with her sister when she noticed a big, white, furry rabbit hopping about and talking to itself.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, I shall be late, I shall be late,
she heard it repeating, which was most unusual for a rabbit. You see, they're never usually late. Actually, they don't usually talk either. She was so intrigued she followed him, and not just around the field, but right down into his hole. It never occurred to her that it was pretty remarkable that she could get down a hole when she was 3'9" and growing every day. At the bottom, however, the rabbit disappeared through a very tiny door. Alice bent down and saw that it led to a really beautiful garden, but the door was far too small for her to get through. She stood up and looked around her. Now, the only thing she could see was a table, and on the table she found a bottle marked "Drink Me." Now, Alice was a very sensible girl, so she had a good look at the bottle to make sure it didn't say something on it like "bad for you" or "poisonous." It didn't, so she drank it all straight down, and it was delicious. However, it made Alice shrink. She got smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, this somewhat surprised her, but as she was now small enough to get through the door, she didn't worry about it for long. Then, horror of all horrors, she realised she'd left the key to the little door on the table, and she was now so small she couldn't reach up to it. Now, this did worry her, and she was just about to sit down and have a really good cry when she spotted a little glass box with the words "Eat Me" on it, and inside it was a piece of cake. Well, she was getting used to peculiar things happening by now, so she ate the cake quickly, hoping that it would make her grow big again. And it did. She grew bigger and bigger and bigger, until eventually she was so big her head touched the ceiling. Now, this meant that she could reach the key, but she was far too big to get through the little door, and there was nothing left in the bottle to make her grow smaller again. It was all too much, and this time Alice did cry. She howled. Great big tears fell from her eyes. They were so big that pretty soon she found herself standing in a pool of water, and the pool which got bigger and bigger and deeper and deeper and deeper until it was so deep her feet couldn't touch the bottom, and she had to start swimming. She swam right to the shore, and that's how she entered Wonderland. So called because all sorts of weird and wonderful things happen there. Now, for instance, Wonderland is ruled by the Queen of Hearts. She's a very unusual lady. She plays croquet using flamingos instead of a mallet. It's a bit cruel on the flamingos, isn't it? Wonderland is also the home of the Cheshire Cat. That's an animal that has a huge head with a big grin. But the weirdest thing was undoubtedly the Mad Hatter's tea party. The table was set under a large tree, and although it was laid for quite a few people, only 3 were sitting at it when she arrived. The 3 people were the Mad Hatter, a March Hare, and a Dormouse. Alice took a place at the table. She introduced herself, and she was offered a cup of tea.
What day of the month is it?
The Mad Hatter suddenly asked Alice. The 4th, she replied.
What? My watch is wrong, he screamed. It's 2 days wrong. Oh, I told you butter wouldn't suit the works.
He looked accusingly at the March Hare.
Some crumbs must have got in when you oiled it with the bread knife.
What a funny watch, said Alice. It only tells you what day it is, not what hour. That would drive me mad.
Why do you think I'm the Mad Hatter? Said the Mad Hatter, quite reasonably, actually. Oh, look at that Dormouse. He's fallen asleep again.
Does he sleep a lot? Asked Alice.
Oh, all the time. When he isn't awake,
came the reply. How long is that? Persisted Alice. But she didn't get an answer. The Hatter was far too busy prodding the Dormouse, who woke up and immediately started singing,
Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Stop singing that. You know, it reminds me of that awful day, said the Hatter.
What awful day? Said Alice.
Oh, the day I was singing for the Queen, and she told me I was murdering the time. She was so cross, the time stopped. It's been 6 o'clock ever since. That's why we're always having tea, explained the Hatter. The table is set for lots of people, so that when we've finished at one place, we can all move round. Here's how it works.
The Mad Hatter moved round, prodded the Dormouse, who'd fallen asleep again, and made him move round also, so that Alice could take his place. She cleared away the crumbs that the Dormouse had left, poured herself a cup of tea, and took a cream cake. It must be lovely, she thought to herself, to live off buns and cakes all day and never have to eat all those ghastly things that are meant to be good for you, like spinach and liver. But, she thought, buns and cakes can't be that good for you. And then suddenly it came to her.
That Dormouse isn't getting the right things to eat, and that's why he's so sleepy, she said to the Mad Hatter,
who looked at her in astonishment.
If he only eats cake, he isn't getting enough vitamins. What? Vitamins have nothing to do with it, said the Mad Hatter. It's all the Queen's fault. When she stopped the time at 6 o'clock, it was tea time for us. But because the Dormouse is only little, it was his bedtime. He was just about to go to sleep when the time stopped. He's never woken up properly since.
But maybe if you let him have one good long sleep, instead of waking him up the whole time, he'd wake up really awake eventually, suggested Alice.
That's a very good idea, said the Hatter. But it's far too sensible to happen here.
I forgot, said Alice, hoping someone would offer her another piece of cake. It was all really confusing, and she was getting rather tired of the whole thing. She sipped her tea, and it occurred to her that it was the first home-like thing she'd had since she'd been in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter continued chattering away, or rather arguing with the March Hare, and she slowly closed her eyes and fell asleep. She had all sorts of lovely dreams. She dreamt of the beautiful garden, of gardeners painting white roses red, of mock turtles singing songs, and when she woke up, she was sitting by her sister under the tree. A big white rabbit was hopping about next to them, and Alice thought she heard it saying something. But she couldn't have done, could she? Because rabbits don't talk, do they?